What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we have a Sufjan Stevens Top 10. Part 1, there's going to be a 3-part series over the next 3 months, one a month from our patron, longtime supporter, friend of the channel, Asmund. Thank you, Asmund. Asmund has brought some other stuff from Sufjan, and I really did enjoy that stuff. So this is all basically Asmund's research. I added a little bit here and there, but I really didn't need to because the guy knows a lot about him and did a fantastic job. So let's just jump right into it. Sufjan Stevens is an American singer-songwriter born in Detroit, Michigan in 1975 to his parents Richard and Carrie. At the time of his birth, they were members of New Age-inspired interfaith spiritual community called Subud, originally founded in Indonesia. And the strange name of him and his siblings, Jamala, Johara, and Marzuki, I've looked over this, but I haven't looked over it for a while, were inspired by Subud. Sufjan is an Armenian name that means comes with a sword. The family later left Subud. His mother, Carrie, suffered from severe depression, schizophrenia, and alcoholism, and left the family when Sufjan was age 1 and moved to Oregon. He saw his mother infrequently from then on, but he did visit her in Oregon in the summers from the time he was 5 years old until he's about 8, is what I found in later research. And she was married to Lowell Brahms, his stepfather, who later became head of his record company, Asthmatic Kitty Records. Sufjan and his siblings were then raised by their father and stepmother, Pat. Their father was an authoritative figure and struggled to show the children the love they needed. And Sufjan also was estranged to his father for much of his adult life. When Sufjan was 9, they moved from Detroit to Petoskey, Michigan, where he attended a Christian high school and arts academy. He then moved to New York and gained a Master of Fine Arts degree from the New School. At the time, he intended to become either a graphic designer or a novelist, although he had learned to play piano, oboe, and guitar at the time, and had played in a band, Marzuki, named after his brother. While he lived in Brooklyn and attended a creative writer's course, he started recording his debut album, A Sun Came, which he released in 1999. The album is a mismatch of a lot of genres, but has strong influences from medieval folk music and world music, especially Middle Eastern folk music. He followed this up in 2001 with Enjoy Your Rabbit, an electronic instrumental album inspired by the animals of the Chinese zodiac. This shows that his two main musical styles in his career, folk and the electronic music, were both there from the beginning. Both of these first albums flopped, and he decided his future was as an author, although he still continued making music. His musical breakthrough came in 2003 with the Michigan album, an album about his home state of Michigan, connecting geography and history of the state to his own life and his experiences in the state. He later stated that this and the later Illinois album was part of a 50 states project where he should release an album about all the 50 states in the United States. He later admitted, though, that this was a marketing gimmick. That would be almost impossible to do. You would have to put out an enormous amount of material in a given year. His next album, Seven Swans, released in 2004, was actually recorded in 2002 before Michigan. It's a mellow folk album with sparse instrumentation, which draws heavily on religious themes throughout the album. During this period, he also started making Christmas records to hand out to his friends yearly. These records have later been released as 2 Christmas box sets, and we do have a top 10 of those up. He had a sort of a breakthrough with Michigan, but his biggest commercial breakthrough came with the next album, Illinois. But that will have to wait until part 2. So see, we're going to cover all of this. His lyrics often deal with religious themes. Sufjan identifies as a Christian and often uses Christian images in his songs. It's also quite clear from some of his lyrics that he identifies somewhere on the LGBT plus spectrum, although he has been quite secretive in interviews about his sexuality, but it shines through in the lyrics. He often deals with his childhood with a father who struggled to show love for his children and an absent mother who struggled with alcoholism and sickness, and how he felt that she abandoned her. That's it, guys. Our childhood forms us in so many different ways. We can overcome it, but it always forms some part of us. And I know on songwriters, man, it comes out quite often. So before we jump into this, I'm not going to have the music in this video or it'll get blocked, but it'll be a Vimeo link below. Check it out. We'll have the lyrics up as we follow along. Let's bump number 10. You see it below. We Are What You Say, from the album From A Sun Came in 1999. Asmund says the opening track of his debut album is heavily influenced by both medieval and Middle Eastern folk music. The lyrics are probably meant to denounce Mormonism and the Church of the Latter-day Saints as false teaching. I don't think I've heard one of these songs, at least. I think just one. I've looked at this before. Yeah, just one. And that's it. And this isn't the one. So I like that Asmund picked the first song on the first album, right? This is the first thing that you ever heard from Sufjan. Well, let's check it out. I mentioned during the reaction, definitely Middle Eastern influenced, driven for sure. And about half the song has lyrics and then the back half doesn't. So that's kind of a thing that there's a lot of instrumentation with no lyrics and tons of his music that I've listened to. So he was on that from the very start. I think Asmund's right. It probably is about Mormonism. We are servant. We have a song, the side of a beehive, a tabernacle choir. We are the sound working in wars. The bishop is gone to the acolyte shores. And so, I mean, I really do. I do really do think that that's probably what it's about. You got to really read between the lines and kind of break these down. I'm not going to do that right now. It's just a good look into the start of his career. Like I said, pretty cool. First thing you heard from him. Now up to Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing from Songs for Christmas Volume 2, Hark. It was recorded in 2002, so that's why it's here, but it wasn't released until 2006 because, I mean, you see it in the description, but I didn't mention this is 1999 to 2004. That's what encompasses these. Asmund said early on, Sufjan started giving Christmas records to his friends as a Christmas gift each year. They were not intended for release, but was later eventually released as part of 2 Christmas box sets. On one of these records, he recorded this beautiful non-Christmas hymn written by Robert Robinson in 1758. It's a hymn about the grace of Jesus. Robert was only 22 when he wrote it. The lyrics, which dwell on the theme of divine grace, are based on 1 Samuel 7:12, in which the prophet Samuel raises a stone as a monument, saying, "Hitherto hath the Lord helped us," from the King James Version. If you know the Bible and haven't figured it out, that was the King James, you know that. The English transliteration of the name Samuel gives to the stone is Ebenezer, meaning stone of help. The unusual word Ebenezer commonly appears in hymnal presentation of the lyrics. Thou Fount of Every Blessing. That was just a beautifully done song. And it shows Sufjan's musical prowess, right? Because he plays the sleigh bells on there. That's a credited thing. He plays the drums, the glockenspiel, the keyboard, the piano, the banjo, which is what he went with for the first minute and a half of the song. It gave it a cool texture. The only other people in here are Vito Aiuto and his wife Monique, who Vito's a reverend of some church in Brooklyn, I know. So I remember that from this album, from when we did research on it. But that's the only other people in here. But just a beautiful rendition of this. And it's funny, he put the sleigh bell in there, but when you read the lyrics, I mean, you always hear this at Christmas. If you're a Christian, I'm a Christian, you always hear this at Christmas. But it actually, you see it now, it's really not a Christmas song. I mean, it can be used that way, but it is, that's not the intent. So that was pretty cool to learn. Up to number 8, you see it below, Year of the Horse from Enjoy Your Rabbit in 2001. Asmund says, and now for something completely different. Enjoy Your Rabbit's a largely instrumental electronic album. It may not be accessible, but I've included a track to show that the electronic music side of his career, which becomes more notable later, was something that followed him from the start, as well as having one example on the list of his instrumental songs, of which there are quite a lot. Each of the songs on this album are inspired by the animals of the Chinese zodiac and are all made to sound slightly like some of the qualities the animals possess. All of the tracks are titled Year of the, quote, insert animal, apart from the title track, Enjoy Your Rabbit, which is named otherwise because Sufjan himself is born in the Year of the Rabbit. Year of the Horse is my favorite on the album and the longest track on the album. Some fans speculate he made this the longest track of the album since his mother Carrie, from whom he was estranged, was born in the Year of the Horse. On his 2015 album, Carrie and Lowell, which we'll get to in part 3, where he mourns her death, he also uses multiple horse metaphors to talk about his mother, for example, calling her a, quote, tired old mare. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, if you watch this channel, you know I'm not a huge fan of long songs. This song's over 13 minutes long, but we'll dig in and I'll give it a fair shot. There you have it, Year of the Horse, a 13-minute, 18-second song. I mean, it says 19, but then below it says 18. Either way, the first 7.5 minutes of it I liked. It's a little mesmerizing, you know. You get kind of lost in there. Started out the good piano and then some different sound. I don't even know what all that is. Some of it sounds like a messed up fax machine. I know I see on there's a siren and all kinds of different things. The last 6 minutes of it drug for me. This is not my kind of music, and 13 minutes of it's rough for me. But electronic music's huge, right? So what do I know? It's just not for me, but I'm glad we got an example of it. Let's move on to number 7. We got Flint for the Unemployed and Underpaid from that Michigan album in 2003. Asmund says the opening track of Michigan's a somber ballad lamenting the plight of Flint, Michigan, a city once at the heart of the American automobile industry that sank into a deep economic depression in the 70s from which it never fully recovered. Today, Flint is known for its unemployment, crime, and more recently, its drinking water crisis, which is just insane how it can happen in the United States, something like that. Song follows an impoverished, unemployed ex-factory worker and shows the apathy he experiences in the midst of his problem. Flint, for me, the strongest song on here so far. Remember, we're talking about an ex-factory worker in Flint, so he's writing from that perspective as that guy. It's the same outside, driving to the riverside. I pretend to cry, even if I cried alone. I forgot to start, use my hands to use my heart, even if I died alone. Since the 1st of June, lost my job and lost my room. I pretend to cry, even if I tried alone. And then it ends with even if I died alone 4 times, and then even if I died. So just fantastic songwriting, really drew you in. Instrumentation was just perfect for a song like this. Lots of power in it. Now we're going to go to song number 6 on Asmund Sufjan Stevens' top 10 songs of 1999 to 2004. We have The Transfiguration from Seven Swans in 2004. Asmund says Seven Swans is Sufjan's most overtly Christian album. In this closing song, he retells quite closely the story of the transfiguration of Jesus found in Matthew 17 and Luke 9. The song is also notable for including a melody part which closely resembles parts of the melody to his biggest hit, Chicago, which would end up on his next album, Illinois. The Transfiguration, that song was also fantastic. Instrumentation just perfect. Like I mentioned, it really uses a banjo on this quite a bit, and just the backing vocals and all of it just works so well together. Just tells the story of the Transfiguration. When he took the 3 disciples of the mountainside to pray, his countenance was modified, his clothing was aflame. Talks about 2 men appeared, and then there came a word, and Peter spoke to make of them a tabernacle place. When he said to them, the voice of God, the most beloved Son, consider what he says to you, consider what's to come, and then just talk about, I'm skipping around. And then lost in the cloud a voice, have no fear, we draw near. Lost in the cloud, sign, Son of Man, turn your ear. He just repeats that 3 different times, right? It ends out with 12 lines of starting with the lost in a cloud, with a voice and a sign alternating, and then some different things in there. Have no fear is in there on all of those. But man, that song was fantastic. Now we're at the top half of the countdown. Go to Dumb I Sound from A Sun Came in 1999. Asmund says this song from his debut album is a nice piano part and is a song about loving someone that loves someone else. That's always rough. Dumb I Sound. I thought the lyrics on this were fantastic. I did enjoy those. He's talking about how dumb he was that he loved her, but or whoever he loved, and they didn't love him. But now he'll basically probably cry at their feet and some different things. I thought you could feel the emotion in his voice. I could have done with the last minute 48, all that electronic stuff. I think it took away from the song because it had nothing to do with the song. The instrumentation was great. His voice had a dreamy type sound to it. So I thought that was really good. And then that part came in. But I know opinions vary on that. Now we're going to go to song number 4, To Be Alone With You. Less than 3 minutes long, which is rare on this list, from Seven Swans in 2004. Asmund says this song's about making sacrifices for love and is contrasting the sacrifices Sufjan would like to do with the sacrifice Jesus made because of love of all mankind. To Be Alone With You, just a really well-written song. He starts out talking about all the stuff that he would do, Sufjan would do, and then the hook, To Be Alone With You, and a female backing comes in, has a nice texture to it. Verse 2, talking about Jesus. You gave your body to the lonely. They took your clothes. You gave up a wife and a family. You gave your ghost, which in the King James, that's what they say. He yielded up when he was on the cross, when he was about to die. To be alone with me, to be alone with me. You went up on a tree to be alone with me. So I really, I've never known a man who loved me is how it ends. So, because he was never close with his father and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, that's a really well done song. Now we're up to song number 3. For the Widows in Paradise, for the Fatherless in Salanti. I'm going to guess the Y and the P are silent, but I guess we'll find out from the Michigan album in 2003. Asmund says, I'm not really sure what the song is about, but it seems to be about death, but also allusions to the miracle of the birth of Jesus. Sufjan has said about the song in concert, let me do a song really quick about a small town up here called Paradise. Michigan has paradise as well as hell, Michigan. It's kind of interesting. And paradise is a place. I noticed when we went up there to play a football tournament in high school, I noticed that there was all these single mothers and women and grandmothers, but there weren't any men. And so I had sort of devised a story in my mind that they all died in the war and they were all widows. But they were really a very happy and optimistic community, and they all seemed to be working together. And it was like women of the world take over. A very interesting song. I don't know what it's about either. But that female backing that comes in, once again, he used the banjo on her. I'm pretty sure that's what that was. I don't know what else that would have been. And just builds, some horns in here. The instrumentation and the texture he builds, he's a master at doing that. And just really building that ambiance. And with his voice, it doesn't really matter what he's singing, right? It just sounds cool. But at the very end, he says, I did everything for you. 8 different times. So I think that's going back to Jesus almost, but it could be back. It could be just, a son to his father or whatever else. But yeah, I mean, it's a really good song. Now we'll be up to number 2. All the trees of the field will clap their hands, from Seven Swans in 2004. Asmund says the opening track of Seven Swans refers to Isaiah 55:12. You will go out in joy and be led forth in peace. The mountains and hills will burst into song before you, and all the trees of the field will clap their hands. Sufjan asks if he is called to join in the praise of the Lord that nature is called to do. All right. All the trees of the field will clap their hands. Great songwriting. Am I joining all my thoughts to you, and am I preparing every part for you? All I heard from the trees a great parade, and I heard from the hills a band was made. And will I be invited to the sound? And will I be a part of what you've made? Am I throwing all my thoughts away? Am I destroying every bed I've made? Am I joining all my thoughts to you? For I'm preparing every part for you. That's most of the lyrics of the song. Nice, long, drawn out instrumentation's nice, female backing in there. Just a really good tune. Now we are to our number 1 track from the album Michigan in 2003. We got the song Romulus. Asmund says one of Sufjan's most heartbreaking songs. It explores his feeling of being abandoned by his mother. The name of the song Romulus refers to a town in Michigan, but is also chosen because Romulus and Remus, the mythical founders of Rome, were also abandoned by their mother at an early age. Sufjan has said about his mother in a 2015 Pitchfork interview, "She left when I was 1, so I have no memory of her and my father being married. She just wandered off. She felt that she wasn't equipped to raise us, so she gave us to our father. It wasn't until I was 5 that Carrie married Lowell. He worked in a bookstore in Eugene, Oregon, and we spent 3 summers out there. That's when we actually saw our mother the most." All right, number 1. There you have it. Number 1 on Asmund's list of Sufjan Stevens' top 10 songs from 1999 to 2004. You got Romulus from the album Michigan. A very nice progression of songwriting. He starts out in the verse 1. Once when our mother called, she had a voice of last year's cough. We passed around the phone, sharing a word about Oregon. Then the chorus came, when my turn came, I was ashamed. So he was ashamed. Maybe he thought his mom left because of him. Then talking about moving away. Once we moved away, she came to Romulus for a day, broke down. We touched her hair. Then verse 3, talking about she had her last child. She had some boyfriends, got wild. Their grandpa bought us a new VCR. We watched it all night. We grew up in spite of it. Then verse 4, we saw her once last fall. Our grandpa died in a hospital gown. She didn't seem to care. She smoked in her room and colored her hair. So maybe he's looking at her going, you know what? Maybe it isn't all bad that she left. And then he says, I was ashamed. Just like that first chorus, he repeats it, but he basically whispers, I was ashamed of her. And he does that 4 times. Very powerful. How it all came around. As a little kid, he was ashamed because he thought it was his fault his mom left. Now he's ashamed that she is even his mother. All right, now we're going to get to my favorite tracks. Honorable mention, To Be Alone With You is song number 4. My favorites, The Transfiguration, Flint for the Unemployed and Underpaid, and Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. Those are my faves. Really did enjoy this list. There were a couple songs that I didn't care for a ton, but I mean, that's what you're going to get in a diverse artist as Sufjan, but really do enjoy his stuff. Very good songwriting, very good production. He understands how to put a song together. And next month, we will have his top songs from 2005 to 2014 in part 2. So be on the lookout for that if you're watching this in a lifetime. Otherwise, they might already all be there depending on when you're discovering this video. But thank you to Asmund for putting this together, the fantastic research and just the perspective that he brings and the information that he brings. Thank you to all our patrons. If you'd like to help us in any way, check out the Patreon link below. The patrons keep this thing going. Until next time, guys, I will see you.